So is President Trump going to send the Statue of Liberty back to France?
Absolutely not. And my advice to that unnamed low-level French politician would be to remind them that it's only because of the United States of America that the French are not speaking German right now. So they should be very grateful to our great country.
Is it just me, or is there way too much going on as of recent? Especially in the United States. I feel like every time I open up my phone, doom scrolling, it's diabolical headline after diabolical headline, and my blood pressure is through the roof. So I figured we could tone it down a bit, have some lighthearted content, and talk about some of the most off-putting things Americans have said.
You can go back and turn back to Cairo. We're supposed to arrange all of that.
We could do it in America.
Okay.
Why can't we do it here?
What are you doing here?
And this is pretty interesting because there are obviously people in America that resort to US defaultism more than I could have ever imagined. I thought it was a small minority, but the more I look at this, it's coming from every which way but loose. So we're gonna be diving into a little bit of US defaultism. What is that, by the way? It's pretty much assuming that anything and everything in the world is related to the United States in some way, shape, or form, regardless of the context. Actually, even ignoring the context. But before we get started, make sure you like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. You guys left some pretty interesting comments in our last video in this series, and the first one says, I'm Australian and was chatting to a lady from the USA. We were talking about Walmart and I told her there's no Walmart in Australia, and she didn't believe me. She looked up Google and came back saying there's one in Melbourne. I tried to tell her I'm pretty certain there isn't one. She left thinking she was smart. A little research and I discovered there is a Walmart in Melbourne, Florida, not Melbourne, Australia. LOL. A little research goes a long way, but you know that in today's day and age, people are allergic to doing their own research. And especially in the United States, it is very interesting that more and more of the resources that we could rely on in the past on the internet are rendered unreliable. So yeah, it's a wonder why people are resorting to diabolical levels of US defaultism. But this one was just pure stupidity. They could have easily just done more research and completely nullified what they said. I feel like what a lot of people do when they use Google, because at the end of the day, Google is a search engine. You're supposed to pull several sources and cross-reference them and then get to your conclusion after that. But I think what most people do is they'll Google a question and the first thing that pops up is the answer, because nobody wants to do any more digging than that. But I could be wrong. You let me know in the comments down below. But our next comment from one of you guys says, it's so funny you mentioned France. In every Hollywood movie, the aliens always attack different countries in the USA. But if they remember that other countries exist, they might attack Paris or London. It's so nice to know that we Swedes will never be attacked by aliens because they only attack places that have landmarks that Americans know about. Diabolical. That actually never really crossed my mind. Part of it did, but not the entire idea. I remember watching Transformers and I'm like, man, like it's crazy that most of these destructive scenes are taking place throughout the United States and maybe one or two iconic places in the world. What about all the other random spots on the planet, right? They're just completely unscathed. So in American filmmaking historically, as long as you don't have anything that stands out to Americans, oh my God, your country is safe. And you know how bad we are at geography. So that's most of the planet that would be rendered safe from alien invasions. But anyways, our final comment from one of you guys says, the Fahrenheit argument equals 4.2% of the world's population uses it, meaning that only 95.8% of the world uses Celsius. Yes, that's very true. It's so funny because I was fighting to the bone about using Fahrenheit over Celsius for such a long time. And as I got older and my brain developed, I'm like, wait, hold on, what am I doing? Obviously, everybody uses Celsius worldwide outside of the select few countries, the United States being one of them. It's an adjustment that has to happen, you know what I mean? Especially with me traveling more often to Europe more than ever. And then, of course, I'm in Korea now. Hopefully, you guys have brought some snacks because today we're going to be getting into some very diabolical US defaultism posts from fellow Americans, and it gets more and more disheartening the farther we go along in this video. So, without further ado, our first post starts off with a wonderful description caption which says Alpha. And what could they be referring to? Well, if you take a very close look at this image here, there is a picture of the King of England giving a speech while Donald Trump is partaking in the enjoyment of some spaghetti. A mouthful of spaghetti. This went absolutely viral and people were like, what is happening? And a lot of people were saying America in a nutshell. But the comment underneath this photo says, it's called being an alpha. You wouldn't understand. Do you see the way the king is looking at him? Because, oh my God, that is crazy. That is crazy. This looks like an AI generated image, but this was a real canon event. This was a canon event. So obviously the comment section went absolutely ballistic. And the first comment says, surely that's sarcasm. Please say yes? Unfortunately, it's not. That's what a true alpha looks like. Stuffing yourself silly at a high-profile political event. While other people are speaking, obviously. Our next comment says, is it just me or is being an alpha just an excuse to be a rude, vile, hypocritical jerk? No, that's exactly what being alpha is. When people use the term alpha in the context like the alpha male or alpha personality, blah, 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 willy-nilly, right? Typically those people are very cringe. Anyways, our next comment says, LOL, the king's face is fucking hilarious. That's what I'm saying. It is true what they say too. A picture speaks 1,000 words, and this picture speaks volumes. Describing what is happening in this picture is insane. It looks like the king's looking off to the side having a fourth dimension wall break, inquiring, yo, does anybody see what the heck is going on here, or is it just me? Am I crazy, or is this actually happening right now? Oh yeah, this is a canon event, and you know, Donald Trump is stuffing his face. That food must have been good. First of all, I need to find out who the chef was that made that dish, because it had to have been delicious if he was going at it like that. But our next post is even more diabolical. As the description reads, trying to deport outside the US. And you might be wondering what the context is, and very crazy because the context is this image right here that says, someone said they reported me to ICE. I live in Canada. So the someone was obviously from the United States, and ICE, by the way, could literally be anything. The defaultism here is that everybody knows what ICE is, and lobbing that insult at a person who doesn't even live in the United States is crazy. Like what? She lives in Canada. But of course, on the internet, nobody knows very much about the next person over. We all just make assumptions here. But yeah. Diabolical. The comments had a lot to say about this, and our first comment says, reminds me of that time a maggot told me that I will never be able to know a prosperous and rich lifestyle and will never get their good American money, as a reply to me telling them that I'm Luxembourgish. The irony. Bro, people from Luxembourg are generally very well off.
75,000 euro a year is crazy. On average, do you know what the average salary is in the United States? Let me show you. Oh my God.
So they're chilling, okay? People from Luxembourg are chilling. In fact, I feel like they would prefer to be in their situation 100 times over being in the situation most Americans are in right now. Our next comment says, international currency exchange doesn't care. International currency exchange, otherwise known as ICE. The real ICE. Dude, I'm telling you, how can you assume that people know what that is? Good googly moogly. Now I know there's clips all over the internet of ICE in the United States going absolutely hard in the paint with enforcing some things, but we can't assume that everybody knows. You know what I mean? We can't do that. Deporting to ICE must be cold. Oh my God. But it gets more diabolical. We have another post, and our next post, the description's quite interesting. Global standard. Now, again, there's always context that come with these very brief descriptions, and the context for this one is a screenshot of an image that says Roblox is working with the IARC to soon replace Roblox current age ratings with the global standard. And underneath that, it shows all of the game ratings that are in the United States of America. I'm not sure if these ratings apply anywhere else besides the United States, but the rating system outside of the United States varies from country to country. So the fact that they showed this image below what we just said, the global standard, is defaultism. That's textbook defaultism. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. Maybe I'm wrong. You guys says, let me know in the comments down below. But our first comment says, apparently Peggy just doesn't exist.
Peggy 18.
I love that, like, soundbite. Peggy 18. Our next comment says, is a global standard for age ratings even possible? Countries' cultures are too varied. For instance, a scene with non-sexual nudity, like a guy just walking around naked in his house, his genitals are only seen in full body shots, would be seen as fine in France, would have the work to get an 18+ rating in the United States, and would have the work banned in Saudi Arabia, which is very true. Kind of what I was trying to say. I said it kind of messed up, but basically every single country has a different type of culture attached to it, and that will greatly impact the rating that is associated with whatever game. You can take a game like Assassin's Creed and that rating will be different from country to country based on what the cultural norms are, what's socially acceptable, etc, etc. So very interesting that that change is going to be happening, but Roblox got a lot of other problems they need to hash out. But we have to move on to our next post that will cause you to spit the water out of your mouth. And the description says, my money won't work somewhere else. This, I can only guess what this one means. But it's a thread, and the top of the thread says, the waiter told them with card it has to be a minimum of 15 euro when you don't pay in cash. And the comment under that says, restaurants in Europe won't take US dollars. And underneath that, it says, yeah, obviously, why would they take USD? My head hurt reading that. I'm pretty sure the person that responded to that initial top comment was probably thinking that if I bank in America, then obviously if I go to another country, I would have to find a way to convert my currency in my bank account to allow my card to work in that country, which is not how that works at all. The country will take whatever the currency equivalent is out of your bank account when you pay with card. So oh my God, this person just doesn't understand how banking works, let alone how currency works internationally, which is why this is a very valid US defaultism post. To a T, this person just lacks brain cells, which, you know, the comment section was definitely on their head about. Our first comment says, there is cash and bartering in their eyes or something. Person A writes 15 euro, mentions card and cash have a different minimum spend. USD inserted for no goddamn reason. That's what I'm saying, bro. That has nothing to do with what the initial comment said. Again, I think I understand what the mindset was for that. It's like, well, it requires 15 euro minimum if you're going to pay with card. It's like, well, actually, Europe doesn't accept US dollars. I'm like, bro, why was that comment even necessary? So actually, I don't understand why that responding comment said what it said. I was trying to understand the psychology behind why you would comment some dumbass shit like that, but I don't understand. There is another country and they have their own currency? Oh my God. Welp. We learn something new every day now, don't we? Oh my goodness. I forgot how painful this was reading in the post. Crazy. Our next comment says, imagine trying to use euros in Texas. It wouldn't work. But our next post is a very interesting one that we have covered time and time again and never gets old. First time here. This is in reference to a screenshot that reads, you have to be 18 to drink. What happened to being 21? This person obviously does not realize that whatever they're referencing has nothing to do with the United States. I mean, that's the first thing that would run across my skull cap. I'd be like, okay, if the drinking age is 18, it has to be somewhere else. Because if that made it to the United States of America, that would be insane. Oh my gosh, every American would hear about it. Oh my God, the drinking age is 18, blah, blah, blah. What? That would never happen. There's a holy war happening in the United States right now. That would never happen. But so that being said, it's obvious that if you see, hear, whatever, that the drinking age is 18, you have to assume it's from a different country other than the United States, which makes sense. But our first comment says, you guys have drinking age? All right, the user that created this comment is from Albania. Albania, y'all got a drinking age out there? Our next comment says, I like how most of these comments I've previously seen were from Gen X millennials or boomers, like they themselves weren't absolutely allowed to drink at 18 themselves growing up. Hell, for some of them, drinking and driving was legal. Whoa, that's crazy. I'm not even sure what the laws were like back in the day in the United States as far as when the drinking age became 21. I'll look into that. When did the drinking age become 21? Anyways, our next comment says, we need to hit back and make fun of them for not knowing that 18 is the legal drinking age. I was waiting for somebody to say that. So with all the US defaultism comments and stuff like that, it's funny if responding comments were defaulting to their own countries in response to the US defaultism comments. You know what I mean? It'd be like a pretty funny clapback. The next post description is pretty interesting. They don't even know their own flags. What in the world could they be talking about? Well, let me show you a diabolical image. Side by side, we have a Confederate flag with a Norwegian flag. And the caption above it says, Norwegian flag taken down in US town after being confused for Confederate banner. Whatever it could be, the comments were very interesting related to this post, and the first comment actually says, I bet there have been people who tried to do this in Norway itself. Really? Well, you know, I bet there could have been Americans that have traveled to Norway that probably saw the Norwegian flag and they're like, hey, you need to take that down. That's racist. That's a Confederate flag. Like, what? That's what kills me, man. I hate it. I hate it so much when people are like, since this thing offends me, or that I assume that this thing that is known by people in my country as this thing is offensive, it should be taken down and eradicated when I'm in another country, when it represents something entirely different in another country. Like, if there is a symbol in one country that stands for peace and prosperity, and in your country it means something different, you traveling to the country where it means peace and prosperity and telling them to take down their symbols is diabolical. Let them do their thing. They were unbothered before you got there. So, it is what it is. The next comment says, this explains their votes. Ouch. Relax. That one hurt a little bit. I don't know about the original poster's story, but this did happen in Seattle a few years ago, which is an area that has a lot of Norwegian heritage. That second photo is absolutely not a photo of anywhere in Seattle. Okay, so I don't know. Maybe the post was rage bait. Could be. Either way, crazy photo with a crazy caption, because I didn't even think, even still looking at that image, the Norwegian flag looks nothing, in my opinion, like Confederate flag. The only thing that's similar is they share the same colors. And that's about it. Our next post says, original poster was asking for advice on dealing with strict Muslim parents. No mention of location in original poster's post. So we can assume here that the person defaulted and gave them advice based on what the rules are in America. Let's read it. So this is off of the r/advice thread on Reddit. It has the title, my parents are forcing me into wearing blah, 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 blah. Well, the first comment we see is a response to this question asking for advice, and it says, if you are in America, as I assume you are, your feelings are valid. However, a saying I always will tell people is choose your battles wisely. Your unwillingness to cooperate and obey now could result in escalation. Would you rather it escalate, or can you wait until you're out of their sight and out of mind? Also, if you're able to wear it in their presence but take it off when they're not present and no one would snitch on you, is that a possibility? Or do you have a spy always watching? We all have autonomy as adults, but when we're young, it's smarter to make our parents happy. Happiness brings reward, difficulty brings resentment. Just be smart. The response to that comment says, if you are in America, as I assume you are, why would you assume that? The comment section was obviously in cahoots about this whole thing, and the first comment says, according to this, I assume you're from Denmark. I can't assume anything. I don't know where the original poster's from. They never posted their location. So I think general advice is pretty good. Like the comment to the original poster's question asking for advice, right? The advice given was solid. I think the advice was pretty good. What would you guys say to that piece of advice given to the original poster? Now, the only problem with it was assuming that you're from America. But our next comment says, if you are in America, your feelings are valid. I completely forgot the person said that. Your feelings are valid no matter where you are, by the way. They're valid no matter where you are. I completely forgot about that particular part of the advice. The advice after that was pretty good. Our next comment says, I loved how they assumed they were in America, then gave advice pertaining to that. I usually ask where they are located, and if they are in the US, I try my best to help. Because it's gonna be different based on where you're located, right? I mean, each country has a different culture, and with that, you're gonna have to handle certain situations with delicacy. You know what I mean? Based on where the location of the incident president takes place. Let me know if you guys agree with that. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Let me know, man. Let me know. From Tumblr. Oh, this has got to be good. I have not heard of Tumblr in so long. Is Tumblr even relevant anymore? Is Tumblr actively still getting updates? I thought that died in 2013 or something. Anyways, the post here is kind of like a thread in a way. I guess the first comment here from a user says, I think we should bully Americans more when they don't clarify that they're talking about America. Oh yeah, I'm from the East Coast. Which fucking one? I hate the president. I mean, I agree, but there are multiple presidents of multiple different countries. Would it kill you to not act like America's the default? What state are you from? I live in this little place called the rest of the entire fucking planet. Oof! The response to that was, you should, but also like, this is an American site created in an American city and was run by Americans. I think it's still owned by an American company. So like, yes, it does cater more to Americans. Why the fuck did they type in hashtags? Like, I don't understand how Tumblr works. Do you have to type your response in fucking hashtags? That's cancerous. That is cancer. Why would you do that? Oh, anyways, the responder to that says, you literally wrote this using an editor made by a Canadian, 2 Brits, and a Spaniard, all of them in their respective countries. If you are posting from the apps, it's another Spaniard, an Argentinian, or a Nicaraguan. So kindly, Pescaria al Rio. Shit, that's pretty fried. Let's see what the comments had to say about this. Love how they always assume whatever they're using is American. The internet and all websites, all apps, all computer, all phones, all cars, and everything else. They never even look it up. Do they just think I have this and I'm American, so it must be American too? Yes, unfortunately, yeah. We use it, it's in our lives all the time. We default to thinking that it's only here in America and now nowhere else. Hey, my goodness. And, you know, as a result, we make ourselves look like fools on the internet and we wind up in these videos. So our next comment says, kinda wish some American would ask me, which state are you from? So I could answer them Schleswig-Holstein without elaborating. That's what I was actually wondering too. Like I mentioned earlier, the clapback stuff, like imagine saying like, oh, what state are you from? The response of a person who's not in the United States, they would just say like what province they're from or whatever, right? And then just baffle the person from the United States. First of all, if you're gonna assume that they're from the United States in the first place, that's diabolical. We can dissect that left, right, up, down all day until the cows come home. But our next comment says, this is an American site created and run by Americans. Okay, then why do they also do this in British newspaper comments constantly? Sometimes I read the Daily Fail just for comments from lost Americans who haven't figured out that other countries exist yet. God, it pains not just myself, but many, many people. We gotta do better. We gotta do better. I say this all the time. We gotta do better. Now, I've caught myself doing stuff like that before, but I have to take a step back and think before I type, you know? Think before I speak. Now, sometimes I don't, but I need to at least take a step back, take a deep breath, and then think to myself, is what I'm gonna say gonna make me sound fucking assuming to bring food to the US? The screenshot in question here starts off with a comment at the top saying, was pasta necessary? They sell Cecco Italian pasta in the US and cheese is legal to bring to the US. It would not spoil all this time without a fridge? Underneath that, the comment responding to it says, who's saying anything about the US? He's traveling from Italy to Denmark, and gets completely ratioed in the comments. This is actually in regards to food expiration dates and what have you and whatnot, and questioning if that would expire traveling a long distance, blah, blah, blah. Although the distance is from Italy to Denmark, which is not as long as America to fucking Italy, Denmark. You know what I mean? Anyways, so the comments had a lot to say. The first comment says, I cannot even begin to comprehend how their mind works this way. Imagine having this much main character syndrome. That's been the United States for as long as I can remember though. Honestly, I feel like there hasn't been a time, at least since I've been alive, where the United States has not been self-centered. They share the spotlight on occasion, but for the most part, the United States of America has been very self-centered. If you guys can let me know in the comments down below, was there ever a time you can recall, or maybe your parents or grandparents can recall, where the United States was not self-centered? Our next comment says, I genuinely cannot fathom that. Why are they assuming it has anything to do with the US? That is crazy though. When you look at the context of this, it's like this dude's talking about pasta. If you look at the faded, I didn't even look at the very top of the screenshotted post, right? The image that is dimmed out, it says Friedrichsfreunde, and underneath that it shows some goods that they brought with them, just showing off to their audience. I would immediately assume this person's from Germany. Like, that's German. Friedrichsfreunde. Like, bro, come on, for you, friends. Anyways, context is king, and apparently the person in the comment section had not a clue of what the word context meant, because that wasn't even taken into consideration at all when making that comment. The next comment says, why on earth would you not be going to America though? Haven't you heard? It's the only place to be, said Americans and Americans alone. I'm not gonna lie, I've brought this up a lot, and you've seen me make commentary videos on this very recently, and I'm not joking. I've never seen this many Americans actually talk about leaving America. Not for good, but for a time, until things calm down. We're going through it, if I'm being so honest. I opened the video and I was stutter stepping. I didn't really know how to gather my words because there's just so much going on right now. I genuinely get a little anxious thinking about tomorrow. Like, I don't know what headline I'm gonna see. Am I gonna wake up to another mass shooting? We literally just had 2 to 3 back-to-back mass shootings in the last week. Now, in the last 2 months, we've had probably 8 to 10 mass shootings that have made the news nationally in the United States. And that's not including the assassination that happened as well. There are a lot of other political things that are happening that are changing drastically, and tensions are super high. And so every time I wake up, I look at my phone, and then there's articles going across my phone screen about headlines in the United States. I get a little anxious. You know, I get a little anxious because I'm like, man, like, what is next? I remember a time back in the day where I could open any piece of media on the internet, and didn't matter what the headline was really at the time, they normally were not that bad. I want things to change for the better, you know? Like, there should just be a period, and there will be a period, I know, in the future where all of this kind of dies down a bit. It will never ever be gone, but it will die down. It's just kind of disheartening to see a lot of sentiment change towards the United States. It's not as upbeat as it once was. It does feel like everyone is forcing a smile to kind of keep the peace. Now, our next post is quite interesting. The caption reads, reading comprehension on a completely different world defaults to the US. Interesting. Now, the screenshot here, the top of it is from r/coffee, and it's a question that asks any recommended coffee shops or roasters to visit in Spain. Now, let's read that question again. Any recommended coffee shops or roasters to visit in what country? Spain. Spain. Now, of course, the comments can't get diabolical, right? Well, the response to this says, sorry, read that as San Francisco instead of Spain. My bad. How the fuck did you read that as San Francisco? San Francisco, the word San Francisco has more characters in it than the word Spain. And where in the fuck in the word San Francisco is there a letter P? How did that look like? The comments, let's get to the comments. Their first comment says, okay, how? That's what I'm saying. I can't be the only one that thinks this is crazy. This is crazy. This is crazy. How did you get San Francisco from Spain? What are you talking about? Clearly talking about Little Spain, the Latin quarter of San Francisco, where the local Starbucks serves the totally authentic and traditional Café con Mil and the Cuadrado. Bruh. Nah. It baffles me how people's brains work, right? All of our brains work very differently, but like, I'm genuinely trying to understand how someone could glance over and mistake Spain for San Francisco. If someone can make it make sense in the comments, that would be great. Our next comment says, yeah, I can see the confusion. Both contain an A, an I, an N, and a S. Just an honest mistake. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, I'm dumb. I didn't see the resemblance, but now that I do, yeah, of course. San Francisco, Spain, basically the same word. Our next post says, water at 20 degrees is apparently ice because water freezes at 32 degrees. Another Fahrenheit versus Celsius post. And the thread is very interesting. The top of the thread here says, I have news for you. 20 degrees would be ice because water freezes at 32 degrees. And I have been doing laundry longer than you are old. So I think I know know how to do it and what temperature to do it on. The response to that says, he is talking in centigrade Celsius, not Fahrenheit. Water freezes at 0 degrees Celsius. And the response to that says, no, water freezes at 0 degrees unless you're an American and refuse to use cents. Underneath that, it says, he's speaking in logical units, not cholesterol people units. Oh my God. So basically, all of the comments underneath the original comment were roasting the fuck out of the original poster's comment. So let's go ahead and see what the actual comments to this thread had to say. And the first comment responding to all of this craziness, it says, cholesterol units. Oh my God, that almost took me out. I'm not gonna lie. Cholesterol units is crazy. Don't come for us like that. That's crazy, bro. Cholesterol units. Listen, I understand. In the United States of America, we are high calorie humans that measure in cholesterol units. Cholesterol people units is fucking wild. That's what I'm saying, bro. I've never heard anything like that. You guys gotta be comedians. Internet comedian. Good Lord. I'll cry myself to sleep tonight, don't worry. Oh my, cholesterol people units is crazy. The next comment says, 4% of the world's population uses cholesterol people units. The other 96% use Celsius. There's not another default. There is the default and an outlier. Exactly. That's what we call a US defaultism, right? It's delusional. Just because the United States uses Fahrenheit does not mean the rest of the world uses Fahrenheit. But unfortunately, that is a concept that still has not crossed the threshold of many people in the United States skull caps. Our next post says, your mom is a Republican. Yikes. Is probably what you wanted me to say. But the context is pertaining to a particular screenshot here off of r/mildly infuriating. It says, my mother insists on having this air purifier, I think is what it was probably going to say. Anyways, underneath that, the comment says, let me guess, your mom is a Republican. How does this have anything to do with a person's political stance? Now, I don't know what the following letters were going to be after P, but I'm assuming it's purifier based on the image, but I have no idea. Anyways, underneath that says, given that the socket is, a plug outlet, my bad. Given that the socket it's plugged into is clearly not a NEMA outlet, what on earth makes you think the original poster or their family is in the USA? That plug outlet is entirely different than what we have in the United States. So that right there should have told you person is not from the US, but do some research, you know what I mean? Take a step back, inhale, exhale, and then ask yourself, before I type this, did I really look into what I'm about to respond to? Maybe she's an anti-monarchist? That could be very valid. Again, I have no idea how plug outlets have any correlation with the type of political party you're associated with. That's what I'm still stuck on. The real irony is where that comment was posted on. r/mildly infuriating, and it definitely is mildly infuriating. Our view on what a Democrat is and what a Republican is gonna be a lot different than what that looks like in other countries. And I don't think people fully understand that in the United States. A lot of people do, but there's a larger majority that I feel like do not understand that concept at all. If you mention that someone's a Republican, it's like, oh my gosh, you said Voldemort's name out loud or something. I don't know. It's crazy, but let me know how you guys feel about this video, man. We covered a lot of diabolical comments and it never ceases to amaze me. Now, I, again, am not innocent. I've defaulted quite a bit in my life, even recently, to be honest. And I had to catch myself because I'm like, oh,